So, has anybody got any questions?
Yes, the strategic timing for when to apply for grants in terms of when they're looking to give out funds or when you need the funds.
Good question. I think you need to understand the process and the way they operate very well. So the first thing to do is make sure you understand their time frame. So do they have specific time frames where there's an application window that closes on a specific date, or is it a rolling application? These are things you need to understand before you start your process. So understanding the process is critical. You don't want to miss out just because you didn't understand the deadline. Was that an answer to the question?
That's a great answer, yes. Okay, how about my next question about the pros and cons of inviting these angels onto your board once you've got something to sell?
So if you have taken angel investment, you do need to think very carefully. First of all, it's not a given that they will join your board. So if they're only putting in a very small amount of money, less than $50,000, you shouldn't necessarily feel obligated to offer them a board seat. Most sophisticated investors would ask for a board seat because that is where they have the opportunity to ensure that they are scrutinising what you're doing and ensuring that you're sticking to the plan that they signed up for in the beginning. You again want to have a harmonious board. If you have got a fractious board with strong personalities, with divergent objectives, it can destroy a business. So my recommendation is you really need to spend time with individuals before you take their money and before you offer them any equity in your company or a seat on the board. Equally, if they are a sophisticated investor, they'll want to spend time with you. You really need to spend time getting to know each other. Time, as my father used to say, time spent on reconnaissance is time well spent, and time getting to know people that you're going to potentially jump into bed with for a work situation is very important. So select carefully.
Okay, well, leading on to another question, what's a good way of, how do you get quality time with these people so that you can really read them quickly without wasting too much time?
You just ask them. Again, if you don't ask, you don't get. Again, any entrepreneur, any investor who has seen an opportunity with you, they would want to spend as much time as they can with you as possible. They would want to spend time with you in different social settings, so they might want to take you to a footy game, they might want to take you to a bar, they might want to have meetings with you early in the morning, at weekends. They really want to judge what sort of commitment you have to this idea. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to understand a person so that I can validate whether it's someone I want to go on a very long journey with. And you really want to like your passengers because you're going to be spending an enormous amount of time with them. Yes?
Is there a limit to how many grants you can get, do you think, or how much funding you can get? So if you've already had a few grants to get your kick started, does that limit you in any way then when you're then looking to get more money on board?
I think each of the grant programs has a cap in terms of the amount of money you can apply. I think you are allowed to make multiple applications for a single grant program as long as the total amount that has been allocated to you does not exceed their cap. So you could potentially have 2 icon grants as long as it doesn't, the total of that does not exceed the cap.
Do you think then that would limit your possibilities then if you were to go to Commercialisation Australia or to an angel investor, for example, the fact that you've already had seed money?
No, they would, there's a difference. That's grant money, it's not really seed money, even though we put it in the seed column. So actually, I would prefer you to have got grants because as an investor, I like the fact that you've first of all been smart enough to identify that there are grants available. Secondly, you've done the hard yards. As you know, it's pretty hard to get some of these grants. It's time consuming, you have to be compliant, it's merit based, it's competitive. I like to see the fact that you've gone through that process and you have got the grants. Equally, as I said before, I think the rigour of that going through that makes you think much harder about your business. and it makes you have conversations with people who are quite experienced as to the validity of your idea. If you've managed to get through that process and get grants, I like that. I rate you higher than somebody who hasn't done that.
Okay, thank you.
My question is on exit strategy. If you see yourself building your business and working in that business for many, many years, is angel investment a good option for you?
That's a very good question. I think that you need to have a conversation with your investors before they come into your business. I have a question that I ask all entrepreneurs. Are you a make me rich or make me famous person? And the reason I ask that question is because the make me rich person is more likely to want to sell their business after 4 years and take the money off the table and do it again as an entrepreneur than the make me famous person. The make me famous person is there because of the status and the credibility and the exposure and the fiefdom or the princedom that they have gained from their business. They are much more unlikely to sell, even if a good opportunity comes along. So I ask that question because I want to make sure that even though I've put my money in at the beginning, when we get to the point where we've got an offer to buy the business, they may say, but we could do more, we could be bigger. That's not what I signed up for. I signed for to take a company from here to create a financial gain. So I would argue that you need to ask the question of your investors as to whether they are in it purely for the money or do they want to grow with you. There are ways, by the way, that you could provide for your early investors to monetize their investment. You could, in the investment agreement, say that at a pre-agreed time, maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they have the right, or you have the right, to buy back the equity from them for some pre-agreed multiple. In which case, if they want to get out, you can buy the shares back from them. So that then allows the make me famous person to carry on that journey and the investor to get the financial gain that they're looking for. So there are ways to accommodate both of those competing desires.
You talked about the marketing god and the tech god.
Yep.
And how important it is for them to be upfront and to present their case. But with grant funding and also some investment funds, including I think ANU to Connect Ventures, the decisions are made on the papers. There's not necessarily an opportunity for the entrepreneur to work, to confront directly the decision makers. How do you get around that? I guess CA Australia probably pretty much the same.
I think that's a very difficult question. It's a complex question. Each grant program or investment opportunity is different in terms of their rules. Some of them would say you're not allowed specifically to go and try and influence the decision makers. I think you need to understand what the rules are. If you are allowed to make a presentation to the investment manager or the investment committee members, etc., you should ask for that. They can only say no to you. Again, I believe that if you really want to succeed, you have to find a way to gain advantage. Now, if you ask to have a meeting and they say, I can't have a meeting because the rules prevent me from meeting with you, then that's fair. If you ask for the meeting and it is allowable and you go and meet them and answer their questions, etc., and you do that with all the committee members, well, I respect that. You have got tenacity, you've got initiative. These are attributes that I look for in an entrepreneur. So I'm looking for an entrepreneur who's looking to gain advantage within the rules.